do my own thing. And so we want to help African American males especially to understand that, to get the assistance that they need, not beat up on them, not take everything away, but help them pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, can I just say something about this?
A question
Uh-huh.
Go ahead. I was going to ask a question to you, but go ahead.
I just have to respond, and I don't want to get too personal, but I just want to say how important this is for so many women in terms of what Julia Carson, our wonderful great sister, begun, and what Congressman Danny Davis, who, again, I always say oftentimes is a lone voice in the wilderness, who authored A Second Chance and all of the other initiatives that he's taken on fatherhood and African-American male issues. But I was a single mother, raised two young African-American boys, and I was on welfare. And, you know, as we talk about TANF reorganization, you know, I think about all of the impediments that many of our government policies have in place that preclude fathers from connecting with their children. And so what you're doing and what Congressman Davis is doing is really so important. And I personally understand that at a very deep level and know that we just have to do this because our African American men deserve a government system that supports their efforts at being good fathers.
I was just getting ready to ask you what precipitated your involvement, but you just explained it, so I don't have to even ask you.
And then I chaired in California the California Commission on the Status of African American Males to try to get our state of California connected to the plight of African American males and how we could do many of the things now that we're trying to do here in Congress.
Right. Let's talk about statistics a little bit. You know, and I think that what percent now, you know, in terms of single parent households, would you have any idea?
Oh, it's unfortunate that in many communities and in many places, and all of these are not necessarily low-income communities. I mean, there are just so many reasons that people are not living in dual households until there's almost a culture among some individuals that this business of marriage and actually having a family, that is just not necessary. I mean, that it's just not. I mean, I do a lot of group things with young people, and in many instances, that's just not where they are, and they don't see it as being necessary. But in other instances, it is so desirable when people can experience it and when people can have it. But you see, it's difficult to lead where you don't go. And it's hard to teach what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so many of our adults grew up in environments where they didn't experience the duality of family. A two-family home, two-person mother, father. I mean, there were times when I thought my parents were absolutely crazy. But I am so glad that they were who they were.
Yeah, you turned out pretty good.
I mean, but I used to thought that they were insane. Come home at a certain time. You got to be in here. Let's get ready to go to church. Let's go to Sunday school. Well, somebody who's never done that, if they have children, they're not going to take their children to Sunday school. They're not going to take their children to church. And I think that we just got to get back to a different level of parenting for many people. Many people don't need any assistance. They don't need any help. They don't need any direction. They don't need any guidance. But unfortunately, many of them really do.
You know, according to the Census Bureau, 45% of children between the age of 6 and 11 live in a single-parent household. And that's, you know, I was very interested in what you were saying in terms of how you raised your two boys as a single mother, and in indicating the fact that you were even on public assistance. I mean, that story needs to be told, because sometimes people in that position, they give up, you know, but look, I mean, you didn't let it stop you. I mean, you went on to become an elected official in the state of California, down in the United States Congress, and of course, I had an opportunity to meet one of your sons too. And who seem to be doing real
They're
well.
doing great. Let me tell you, they're doing great. One of my sons is a manager with State Farm, and the other is a vice president of his father-in-law's insurance company. And they have beautiful children. I have 5 wonderful grandchildren. But I'm going to tell you, it was really hard as a single mother raising 2 young black boys. Now, African-American women are doing a wonderful job raising young sons and young girls with an extended family, which is what I had, with the neighborhood, you know, with my mother, you know, my grandfather, my sisters, you know, so we had to kind of figure it out like so many women have to do. But I can tell you, it would have been a heck of a lot easier for me. I wouldn't have had to go through so many bumps in the road, which I actually wrote about in my memoir.
Right,
you know,
yes,
I wrote about that because I wanted other young women and men to understand what it's about and know that whatever path you choose, that we need a support system there for our young people and for fathers and for mothers, so that we can raise our children to be who they can be, because after all, they're going to take over the world.
Right. But
Plus,
yeah, go ahead.
Everybody's not about relief. I mean, there are some people that no matter what the circumstances are, they're going to do all right. I mean, there are those
Just know how to make it
in the world.
Yeah.
But then there are lots of people who just don't. They weren't as blessed, I guess you could say. I mean, they're who they are, what they are, but they were not provided the fortitude that is needed in order to do certain things. And we're talking about structuring things in such a way that we assist people to know.
So the government should do more.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you know, there are different people who see government in different ways. I think that government should be a facilitator, a clarifier, as well as a provider and an opportunity assistance. And I'm not talking about giving anybody anything. I'm not talking about a handout, but I am talking about a hand up. I'm talking about opportunity, because if we don't, then of course we keep paying the price. More people incarcerated, more people uneducated, more people unemployed. And so it's really our responsibility to do this.
Right. Over the past year, this Congress has focused on health care reform, the economy, and jobs. How do we ensure the needs of children are not ignored while, you know, tackling these important issues? I mean, they're important issues. There's no question about it. But how do we make certain that children still stay on the front burner?
Well, I'm old-fashioned. I mean, I just come from the old school. that it begins at home, early childhood education, early learning, a set of values developed, a certain kind of discipline. But at the same time, I mean, you don't have to be harsh. You don't have to be. My folks were just wonderful. One graduated from the 4th grade. My daddy graduated from the 4th grade when he was 19 years old. My mother got to be 8th grade. And where I lived, I went to a funeral the other day, and later I was walking alongside of her, and she said, you know, your mother was my teacher. Well, I'm knowing my mother went to the 8th grade.
And where was that? What state?
Well, it was in the land of opportunity. It was in the state of Arkansas. You know, the state that, you know, it's the only state in the Bible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Noah looked over his ark and saw. And so that's where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
Not on the great streets of Chicago. No, rural Arkansas. Rural Arkansas.